Everyone to our Judiciary Committee hearing this Monday morning at 10 o'clock. This is going to be probably a chaotic hearing because I need to leave immediately to go vote downstairs. So we're going to go into recess probably for 5 or 7 minutes, and we'll be back and start then. So we're in recess for a few minutes. Okay, coming back in on our 10 o'clock agenda. My apologies for the delay. I can't promise there won't be any more, but we'll try to keep going here. First up today, we have Judiciary Communication number 26 from Michelle in, now I'm forgetting how to pronounce your name, Kumo, for consideration confirmation of District Court of the First Circuit judicial nominee for term to expire in 6 years. First up on the testifier list is Travis Hong. Come on up. Good morning.
Good morning. I'm Travis Hong. I'm here in support of Michelle Kumo. I stand on my testimony that was submitted earlier.
Yeah, no one can hear. No one can hear you out there anyway.
Hi, Dr. Travis Hong. I'm here in full support of Michelle Kumo, and I stand on my written submit testimony.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Next is Eileen Zork. She's not here. Okay, in support as well. Daniel Hugo. In support, Celeste Gonzalez. Good morning.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Celeste Gonzalez, and I've been a pro se litigant for over 3 years now. And I just wanted to really provide support for Judge Kumo because she is one of the few judges that I have found in my own experience that really advocates for the pro se litigants' filings, and she really does follow through with the Supreme Court judges ruling on considering pro se filings to be how do you say it? Liberally, like if there is a little bit of a hiccup or something, to give them a chance. Basically, I'm sorry, I get very nervous on when I'm here. I do have a reservation, and it is from my own personal experience, but I really want to make it clear that I 1000% do support this confirmation of her, because I think that she would be an amazing asset as a full-time district court judge. There is an experience that I had that I didn't really appreciate, and it is that when I was in a courtroom with her, that the experience was that when a lawyer said something, it was automatically believed that they were telling the truth, and then I did not have a chance to speak my side. And since that had happened 3 years ago, I am still dealing with that ruling because those attorneys continue to use that ruling against me in different court proceedings. And so I was never able to speak on my side of the situation before a ruling was made. But other than that, I think she's great. And another thing that I really wanted to share was, being a pro se for 3 years, I've had a lot of judges in front of me, and she's very even tempered. She doesn't get excited. She doesn't get upset. She controls the courtroom very, very well. I feel like because I've been going, when I'm not a lawyer, I don't have any kind of law degree. I do have high level degrees in other areas, so I do have some type of education. But I really just wanted to share that. Now, if you wanted to ask me questions later and you wanted to ask me more about what really happened, I'm gonna stay. But I really just want to make it clear that I'm really in support of her, and I think she is a really good judge.
Okay, thank you very much. Next is Jade Lynn Ching, also in support. Next is William Domingo, retired district court judge. Oh, you were coming up. I'm sorry. Please, I'm sorry, I didn't see you. You're Jade Lynn Ching.
That's correct.
Okay, great. Go ahead.
Good morning. My name is Jade Lin Ching, and I'm from the law firm of Nakashima Ching LLC. It's my honor to speak on behalf of Michelle Kumo today. I've known her since 2011 when she first joined our firm, Alston Hunt Floyd and Ing, which is now known as Denton's. She had just finished clerking for Judge Susan Mulway. We left, my colleague and I, David Nakashima, left in 2017 to establish our own boutique litigation law firm. And we persuaded Michelle to join us, or actually we tried to convince her to come with us. And to my delight, she did. She joined us. Over the last 7 years, I've worked very closely with Michelle. We've gone through hearings, summary judgment hearings, evidentiary hearings, TROs, preliminary injunctions, jury trials. So I've come to know her very well. We've also together argued and briefed before the Hawaii Supreme Court. I know her to be hardworking, committed, and resilient. But critically, I think as a jurist, as a full-time judge, you will find her to be open-minded, honest, and fair. And I think the judiciary will be served well to have her and to appoint her as a full-time district court judge. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, next was William Domingo, retired district court judge, in support. Jared Watermule, also in support. Corianne Lau, in support. If anybody's here or on Zoom and wants to speak, please let me know. Diane Winter Brookins in support. Douglas Rigg and Bill Markovich also in support. Daisy Chung in support. Natalie Kim in support. Annie Sobe in support. Jeffrey Chung in support. Jennifer Antai in support. Mary Carpenter in support. Dana Tokioka in support. That's at this point. If there's anybody else who wishes to testify on JC 26, who has not testified yet. Okay, if not, I would like to call up Jesse Suki for the Hawaii State Bar Association. Good morning.
Good morning, Chair and members of the committee. Jesse Suki, I'm the president of the Hawaii State Bar Association, elected by our members. We have a process that we follow at the HSBA, which looks at candidates for the judiciary. It's quite a process. It takes a lot of our time and involves a lot of our members. And after going through that rigorous process, which we described in our testimony, the HSBA Board of Directors concluded that Judge Kumo is qualified. Judge Kumo has served as a per diem judge for over 6 years, and there was no negative feedback from members regarding her service on the bench. Her judicial colleagues and colleagues from her previous private practice highly recommend her, as you've heard from one of the testifiers, in all categories of the HSBA criteria. And just for the information of the committee and folks watching, that includes integrity, diligence, legal knowledge and ability, professional experience, temperament, financial responsibility, public service, and ability to fulfill the responsibilities and duties of the position. And we come to this decision based on information that we receive from members through a survey we send out to all members and responses we receive, and our own diligence and information we get from the Office of Disciplinary Counsel. And there were no negatives from ODC. So with that summary of our testimony, again, we find the applicant qualified.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
What's everybody I have that's signed up for JC 26? Does anyone else wish to testify in this measure on this nominee? Seeing none, members, questions for the testifier so far?
Yes,
So one intro, go ahead.
thank you. For Jesse Suki, come on up. How many people actually responded when you sent out the survey?
We had about, was it 13? Yeah, about 13 responses.
13. Out of how many members?
We have about 8,000 members, about 5,000 active.
How many of those 13 actually went up against her as an attorney? if you remember.
Sorry, I don't recall. But there were a few who were before her as attorneys.
Oh, as an attorney, but before her as a per diem, because I know she does.
Yes.
Okay, but as far as you know, none who opposed her when she was an attorney.
Not that I recall.
I didn't think so. Okay, thank you. I
Yeah.
have further questions of the last testifier, other than Jesse.
Okay.
I'm sorry, who was that?
That
Oh,
way,
okay.
I don't know, I don't remember her name. I'm sorry. Could you come on up?
Jalen Chin. Yeah.
Jadelyn Chin.
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. And I know your testimony was very glowing. And so Jadelyn, for the time that Michelle worked for you, how many of those were in district court? How many cases?
None.
How many, I know you testified that together you had trials, and in her application, she claims to have had 80 civil trials. How many of those were first chairs?
You're asking me 80 civil trials that
No,
she.
no, I'm sorry. Of the ones that you have supervised her. Or you said on your testimony that you had cases with her.
That's correct.
And when you meant cases with her, were you both litigants, or were you in front of her as judge?
No, we were both litigants representing our clients.
Okay. And since how many of those cases that you had with her did she actually run the case as first chair?
Well, I think our firm is slightly different than the traditional firm that you're thinking of, because we work together on a case. In our last jury trial that we had in front of Judge Valenciano, she had the opportunity to handle witnesses, question witnesses. I gave opening and closing, but we worked together on the case.
Okay, so she didn't actually run the case, determine strategy. She witnessed. I mean, she helped you.
Yes, but that's not quite accurate, because we work together handling strategy
I understand.
and making determinations together. But if you want to provide a traditional overlay on it, then yeah, I would say that I was first chair.
Okay. And usually in trials, I mean, because I've done trials, I've done a lot of trials. And usually in a trial, the first chair is the person who does the objections or chooses not to object because the judge will not allow a co-litigator to make objections. Isn't that right?
That's correct, except in the case that we have in front of, my experience has been, if you're handling the witness,
Yeah.
you're the person that is handling the objections.
Right,
So it's witness specific.
right, you're right, you're right. Thank you. Yeah, thank you for correcting me. You're right. Okay, and how many of those trials where she handled the witnesses? And she was able to do the objections or make the determinations of whether or not to object?
In all the trials that we've done together, she's
She's handled at
yes.
least one or two.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. And the appeals, how many appeals has she done with you?
Oh my goodness. That I wouldn't be able to put a number on that. I do rely on her to do the briefing for our appeals. So I would say, predominantly Michelle is responsible for drafting and of the arguments, the actual writing of the appeals. I mean, frankly, I'm going to be really disappointed because I'm not going to have her around to do that anymore. But I handle the oral argument before the appellate court.
Okay. And and I understand, I've done appeals and doing the briefing and reading the transcripts and finding the errors necessary for an appeal is super important. But I find it interesting, and I just find it interesting, it's neither here nor there, that her bar journal report was on oral arguments when she herself hasn't done oral arguments. Did she help you with your oral arguments?
No, she was present, but she did not do the oral argument.
Okay, thank you very much.
Members, other questions? Okay, Judge Kamal, if you'd like to make an opening statement, please come forward.
Morning,
Morning.
Chair Rhodes, Vice Chair Gabbard, Senator Elefante, Senator San Bonaventura, Senator Awa. Thank you for meeting with me to consider my nomination as judge for the First Circuit of the District Court. I am humbled and grateful to be here. I'm also very thankful for the confidence that has been placed in me by Chief Justice Rechtenwald, the Judicial Selection Commission, the HSBA, and the folks that have attended and spoken here today. One of the interesting and unexpected parts of the confirmation process has been an opportunity over the last several weeks to reconnect with people that I have been friends, colleagues with at many different points in my life. And it's really given me an opportunity to reflect on how my life has been blessed in so many ways. The first of my blessings is the fact that I was born here in this great state in Honolulu in 1975. My parents, Bob and Peggy Camo, had come to Hawaii in 1970. I'm sorry, I was born in 78. They came in 75 to live and make their home after making their way as young adults in the Peace Corps and then in the trials of Vietnam. My parents, who are both first-generation college students, taught me that if I worked hard and believed in myself, that I could do anything or be anything I wanted to be. Like many other families in this state, they each worked long hours and sacrificed to give us the opportunity to reach our God-given potential in this world. My mother in particular is responsible for my interest in the law. I was young when my parents divorced, but I do have a specific recollection that my mother had also lost her job at the city at around the same time. I remember coming into our kitchen and seeing her cry for the first time and learning that we were going to have to move and leave our home. As an adult, I can imagine the fear and uncertainty that that time must have engendered in her. And as the sole breadwinner, she emphasized to me that with education came opportunity and self-sufficiency, especially for women. My parents also instilled in me the importance of public service, and I credit my father especially for his example as the leader of the North Shore Career Training Center. This is an organization that he headed for decades, which strive to create economic opportunity and jobs for the residents of the North Shore and the Windward Side. Today, my younger brother, Matthew, serves in the Army as a Green Beret based out of Okinawa. And my younger sister, Katrina, serves our city as one of the relatively few female police officers on the force. I'm also blessed to have a husband and partner who has allowed me to follow my individual path and has stepped up along the way with his time and love. I would also like to acknowledge our children, Daniel, Laurel, and Benjamin. I know that it has not always been easy for them, as their parents have tried to balance the challenges of working and parenting. And I give them a lot of credit for trying to do that. Finally, I've been blessed to have clerked for amazing judges, whom I consider my professional role models. U.S. Court of Appeals Judge A. Wallace Tashima and U.S. District Court Judge Susan Oki-Malway. In addition, I've worked with inspirational colleagues and mentors at Morrison and Forrester, Alston Hunt, Nakashima Ching, and of course, the judiciary. I've been serving as a per diem judge on the District Court of the First Circuit for over 6 years now. And I take that responsibility and my duties to the judiciary and the public very seriously. A judge must be neutral, looking at the facts and applying the law fairly to the facts of the case before him or her. However, a judge in the district court has an additional responsibility to remember that this court is the people's court. And that means that he or she must be respectful and understanding that when people come into this court, it may be on one of the most stressful days of their lives, and they may have no one there to look out for them. And so they are looking to the front, to the person in the black robe, to speak plainly and look out for the interests of both sides. My professional experiences, including my work as a law clerk, a litigator, and as a per diem judge, have taught me the importance of listening. And I've been developing that over the past 6 years because I think it is so important that when a litigant comes into court that they know that the judge in their case has heard them. Whether or not they carry the day in the case, they know that they've been heard. And so I commit that if I am confirmed, I will carry out my duties, always being mindful of those principles. Thank you.
Thanks very much. Members, questions?
Yes, I do.
Go ahead. Senator
Sure.
Winter.
Okay, yeah, thank you for applying.
Thank you.
How often do you sit as a judge in this, on average?
So it varies over the years. I would say on average, I would estimate twice a week.
And those twice a week, what kind of cases would you hear?
So for the first several years, primarily I heard criminal cases. So in district court, that includes petty misdemeanor, some traffic infractions as well. And then more recently, I've been hearing more civil cases. And so in district court, that includes the summary possession, landlord-tenant cases, small claims, regular claims, $40,000 and less, and restraining orders.
How many, when you applied, you said you had 80 cases. Was that while you were with Nakashima and Ching? Because
May-
Morrison Forster, you just did a whole bunch of
Yeah.
research,
May
right?
I look at that? May I look at my application? Because I don't recall that number. So you're looking at my application, my JSC, okay. Okay, is it number 8 on page 10?
I just remember it somewhere, sorry.
Yeah, so that question was, what percentage of your time during the last 5 years of your practice was related to civil trial litigation? And I wrote
Oh, I
80%,
see. It's
and then
80%.
20%. So yeah, I apologize if that's misleading, but that was meant to be like a breakout between percentage of civil trial and civil appellate.
So how many are we talking about then?
How many cases have I worked on?
Well,
Oh,
okay, so,
I,
yeah, I know that's a lot. So let's not talk about cases you've worked on. Let's talk about cases, I mean, you've heard your boss, former boss, talk about you folks going to trial together. How many of those?
the trial cases, just the one trial
One.
Yeah.
Okay. And
as a litigant, yeah? You're
As-
talking about as an attorney, practicing attorney.
yes.
Yes, that's right. So most of my cases did not go, I mean, in civil court, as you know, you're familiar, many of the cases settle in advance of trial.
Mhm,
They set, or they are resolved on motion practice.
mhm.
So typically that was what we would try to accomplish for the clients.
And the reason I'm a litigator, and I'm just gonna say my bias is for people who have been litigators, because you folks, for judges, because judges need to make, you know this, because you're per diem, decisions right there and then as to whether or not to let evidence come in or not, when an objection is granted. And so that's a concern of mine.
Can I,
Of those cases you've had that were criminal, did you have any 104 proceedings or 704 proceedings? Let's talk about 704.
704, like challenges to fitness?
Yes.
My experience with Chapter 704 has been making referrals when there's a fitness issue. I do not sit in the mental health courtroom where so that's where, you know, you go after you've been referred and there's been a fitness examination and the judge is deciding whether they're fit to proceed and what the next steps are. So yes, I have dealt with 704, but it's been when it's been raised as a part of a case, and it's usually an attorney that will bring it up. The public defender says, I think there's a Rule 704 issue, and then we make a
And when you mean a
referral.
referral, what do you do? Who do you refer them to? Do you refer them to mental health court, or do you actually appoint the 3-person panel or a 1-person panel, depending upon the crime?
Yes,
So,
yeah.
yeah, so tell me, who do you refer them to?
So it could be any of those things. So if it's an Act 26 case, then we take advantage of the expedited proceedings under Act 26. So that would be excuse me, for nonviolent petty misdemeanors, they would qualify and we can do a quick turnaround. So I'd refer them for a 2-day turnaround. If they don't qualify under Act 26, then we're
So
under
why don't you
a
tell
one
us what
panel.
Act 26 is?
Can we,
Sorry, I'm
let
sorry.
me interrupt for a second. So,
Yeah, sure.
I'm
I'll
sorry.
let you ask as many questions as
I'm
you want, but let me
sorry.
check with other people
Yeah.
if there's any other questions. And I do have some questions myself. So let me ask a couple questions.
Oh,
and I'll
yeah,
come
I'm
back to you.
sorry.
So with regard to, when you first became a per diem judge, I think you had indicated somewhere in your application that you actually stopped practicing law for a while to focus on being a judge. Is that
Yes,
correct?
that's right.
Why did you do that?
Well, it was a somewhat natural, it happened somewhat naturally in the sense that Alston, Hunt, Floyd, and Ng practiced in district court. And so I could not continue to work there and also be a per diem judge. So that employment ended. At the time, my children were much younger. This was like 6.5 years ago too. And so I felt like that would be a good opportunity for me to take the time to focus on being a per diem judge. And so for the first couple of years, that's what I did.
Okay. Did you find that advantageous to be able to focus?
Yes. Yes, because when I came into district court, I had never practiced in district court. And so without having to have the 2 jobs, I could really spend a lot of time trying to learn. I won't say master, but learn the courtrooms that I was going into and learn the proceedings in those courtrooms, and really try to make sure that I could be competent in those.
I have a number in front of me of how many cases you've been assigned as a per diem judge, but do you know how many cases you've been assigned as a per diem
No,
judge?
I have not
Okay,
ran that
does
number.
8,700 sound
That does
like-
sound right.
what sounds plausible anyway?
Yes.
Okay. So at this point, that's quite a bit of experience, I guess I would say.
Yes, I feel like in the last 6 years, 6+ years, I have sat on many of the courtrooms and seen many different types of situations that have come up.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's see. I'll defer back to you, Senator Tim. I'm sure if you'd like to continue.
I'm sorry. Okay, so thank you. So what's 8,072? What's the typical district court calendar? How many cases is that?
So it varies pretty broadly. I mean, let's see. If you're sitting in a private DUI courtroom, in a typical morning, you might have 10 or less. And then in a typical afternoon, if you have TDN type trials, maybe a few. There are much heavier calendars. The heaviest calendar is the arraignment and plea calendar. And so if you're sitting in Honolulu, an arraignment and plea calendar can be 50 cases, even up to 100 some days. So those can be quite heavy. On the civil side, recently I've been sitting a lot in rural courts for civil cases. And so our typical calendar may be like, 50 to 75 cases. And so does that answer your question?
Yes. No, I've done district court, so I know that there's a lot. So 8,072 sounds like a lot.
8,700.
But yeah, in a typical district court case where you go one right after the other, that's not that much, not at twice a week. My question then is basically, I want to go back to 704, sorry.
Sure.
How many of those, well, not 8,072, let's talk about your typical calendar.
8,700.
8,700. How many of those do you have 704 referrals or somebody does a motion?
Oh, only not very often. Yeah, in my experience, not very often.
Because
A handful.
File it over mental health court?
No, just because most of our cases don't present those issues.
And when you, what's Act 26?
When I'm talking about Act 26, I'm talking about the provisions for speedy referral so that people don't have to, languish while they're being evaluated for fitness. That's what I'm referring to.
Okay.
Yeah.
And of the 704, how many of those are the speedy referrals?
In my personal experience, maybe one. I recently have been sitting mostly on the civil calendar. And so I haven't had very many like Chapter 704 at all. And so if it is a chapter 704 and it also falls under the provisions of Act 26, then we would make that appropriate referral. But as I sit here today, I've only maybe had one myself. I'm sure other judges have had other experiences.
Because it usually happens at the ring and plea, right?
Not,
Because
yeah,
fitness to proceed,
I would
or
say
not?
my experience is it's in the custody courtroom. It happens quite a bit.
Oh,
So folks that
okay.
are picked up, kept overnight, you know, and yeah, so that would be, I think what was
AMT.
prevalent in the custody courtrooms. Yeah.
Okay. Basically, that's it. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you,
Other
Senator.
members, other questions? I do have one other question. So looking at your resume, where you graduated in your law school class, being law review, working for the big firm up in LA, I guess it was LA, right?
Yeah.
You certainly set yourself up to go a more, what's the word I'm looking for? Sort of the, work really, really, really hard, make lots and lots of money and try to become a partner at a big firm and become a millionaire, but you didn't opt for that in the end. You stepped out of the big firm and came back home. Why would you say that you chose to go the different route?
I don't think there's any one particular reason. I will say, working in a big firm in Los Angeles was very exciting and it's very challenging. It's challenging mentally. But when you work in Hawaii, you are working in your own community and you have clients that are here. And so to the extent, if you want to be the type of person that tries to make a difference in your home, then you should be in your home to do that, right? I will also say that when my mom died, I reevaluated a lot of what I wanted to do and what I wanted my life to look like. My oldest son was very young at the time. And so my husband and I, you know, she died young. She was in her 60s, way too young. And so I took that as maybe a sign that I wanted to make sure that I could live my life fully and do the things that I thought were important sooner rather than later. So that was so we moved home shortly after that.
Okay, thank you. Other questions, members? Okay, if not, because of the chaos of conference, we're just gonna vote right away on each nominee as long as we have quorum. So my recommendation for Judge Kamo is.
Should I move back to the seat?
Yes, yeah, you can move back if you like. It would be to consent to her nomination. Questions or concerns? If not, Vice Chair for the vote.
Chair's recommendation is consent on JC 26. Chair votes aye, Vice Chair votes aye. Senator Elefante?
Aye.
Senator San Buenaventura?
Reservations.
Senator Awa?
Aye.
Measure passes.
Okay, thank you very much. Congratulations. You're one step closer. Okay, we're going to go ahead and move on to Governor's Message number 724. This is John Matsuoka submitting for consideration and confirmation of the Civil Rights Commission for a term to expire June 30th, 2027. First up on GM 724 is Constance Yamashiro, Chief Counsel for the Hawaii Civil Rights Commission. On Zoom. Good morning. You're muted.
Cheryl.
There you go.
Oh, can you hear me? Okay.
Yep, go ahead.
Good morning, everybody, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. Constance Yamashiro, Chief Counsel to the Commission. We stand on our written testimony in strong support of John Matsuoka as Commissioner. Thank you, and we appreciate this hearing.
Thank you very much. Next is Jade Butai, Director for Hawaii Department of Labor and Industrial Relations. In support. Okay. That's everybody who signed up on GM 724. Does anyone else wish to testify on GM 724? John Matsuoka. Seeing none, hang on just a second. Let me check and see if I. Okay. Mr. Matsuoka, are you on Zoom? Yes, there you are. If you'd like to make an opening statement, please proceed.
Oh, I'm here. Thank you. I think the information is there, and this would be my second term on the Hawaii Civil Rights Commission. It's been a very enjoyable and learningful experience, and I look forward, hopefully, this committee agrees to serve as on a second term. Thank you.
Thank you. Members, questions? I do have a question or two. So in the term that's expiring, what would you say is the biggest challenges that the Civil Rights Commission faces at this point?
This term, we went through a couple of major leadership changes. The executive director retired, and the head counsel also retired. So we had to, we engaged in a couple of searches, and we found two very, very qualified people, both of whom were actually internal, but they had a lot of experience in working for the commission.
Going forward for this next term, what do you hope to accomplish in this next term?
More of the same. You know, the work is pretty standard. I think that, as I've said before, that depending on where things go nationally, there might be, you know, major civil rights issues that come into play. I also sit on the legal clinic board, and we're concerned about issues related to immigration as well as LGBTQ issues. So we'll see how things go. But the work is pretty standard. The staff is great. They make it easy for the commissioners.
Okay, thank you. Other questions, members? Okay, if not, let's go ahead and vote on this GM. Hang on just a second. Okay, so my recommendation is to advise and consent to the nomination of John Matsuoka to the Civil Rights Commission for a term to expire 6/30/2027. Questions or concerns? If not, Senator Gabbard for the vote on GM 724.
Chair votes aye, vice chair votes aye. Of the members present, are there any no votes or reservations? Hearing none, the measure passes.
All right, thank you. Congratulations, Mr. Matsuoka. Thanks for being willing to serve. Next up on our agenda is GM 725. This is Orsima Mueller for consideration and confirmation of Civil Rights Commission for term to expire 6/30/2027. On GM 725, first up is Constance Yanashiro, Chief Counsel for the Hawai'i Civil Rights Commission. Good morning again.
Hello again. Good morning. We stand on a written testimony in strong support of our Orsima Mueller as Commissioner. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Next up is Director Butai for Hawaii Department of Labor and Industrial Relations. Or in support, great. Now, Nathaniel Higa in support, Natalie Nimmer in support, Greg Schlace in support, Jacob Matson in support, Catherine Murphy in support, Mark Murakami in support. And that's everyone that's signed up on GM 725. Would anyone else like to testify on GM 725 in Zoom or here in person? Okay, seeing none. Members, any questions for the testifiers? Which I think I forgot to do on the last one. Well, okay, seeing none. Ms. Mueller, would you like to make an opening statement? Good morning.
Good morning. Morning, Chair Rhodes, members of the committee. Thank you for the opportunity to speak today. I was actually before this committee about a year ago for consideration of the same position. I took over a spot that was left open, so it was not a full term. I'm not seeking appointment for a full term because I believe I can still contribute to the commission's work, as I think is reflected in the list of community service projects in my resume. I very much support the commission's work. The commission is doing very important work right now, including developing amended rules. And as an attorney, as an immigrant, as someone with life experiences that may not be reflected in my other commissioners, I believe I can contribute to that work. So with the committee's support, I would very much like to do so. And if you have any questions for me, I'm happy to answer.
Thank you. Members, questions? Similar to what I asked Mr. Matsuoka, for the year that you've been on the commission, what would you view as the biggest challenges that you faced?
Well, as Mr. Matsuoka pointed out, during the last year, we had changes in leadership. That was quite a bit of work trying to replace both of our executive director and general counsel. But we have some, as he said, I agree wholeheartedly with him. We have some good people on board now, and we just need to do the work now.
Okay. In terms of what do you think the commission should focus on in the next 4, let's see, you've got how many years here?
Well, as I mentioned in my opening statement, we have rules that we need to try to pass. We're working through that. And really there's, the landscape, the legal landscape has changed quite a bit nationally, and there's a lot of stuff that could possibly affect us locally. And so we're just sort of keeping an eye on those. With the change in leadership, now we have to get some staffing and try to work on our outstanding cases, try to get those done quickly and efficiently to try to address people's concerns.
Okay, thank you very much. Other questions, members?
Thank you.
If not, let's go with my recommendation on GM 725 for Arsima Muller for the Civil Rights Commission for a term to expire 6/30/2027 is to advise and consent. Any questions or concerns? Senator Gabbard for the vote.
All members present, are there any no votes or reservations? Hearing none, the measure passes.
Thank you very much. Thanks, Ms. Muller, for your willingness to serve, and best of luck in the next, best of luck with the Senate vote and with the full Senate vote, and then assuming that goes well, which I'm quite confident it will. Good luck in the next 3 years. Mahalo.
Thank you very much.
Next up, we have GM 665. This is Joseph Vick for consideration and confirmation of the Hawaii State Lesbian, Gay, Bisexual, Transgender, Queer Plus Commission for a term to expire June 30th, 2028. Would anyone like to testify in GM 665? Seeing none, Mr. Vick, are you there?
They're not on Zoom, Chair.
Okay. Because I told him I didn't think it was necessary that he came to the hearing, I'm going to recommend that we advise and consent to the nomination of Joseph Vick to the LGBTQ Plus Commission for a term to expire 6/30/2028. Questions or concerns?
Did he at least fill out the questionnaire?
Yes.
Okay,
No, I spoke to him extensively.
that he wants to do that.
Yes.
Just want to make sure he wants to do it.
Yep, he wants to
Okay.
do it.
Terrific.
Other questions or concerns? Seeing none, Vice Chair for the vote.
On GM 665 for advice and consent. Members present, are there any no votes or reservations? Hearing none, the measure passes.
Thank you, members. Let's see, what do we got next here? Looks like GM 675, Barbara Maramoto Coons for consideration confirmation of the Board of Registration of the Island of Oahu for a term to expire 6/30/2028. First up on 675 is Michael Kaloyu Sr. in support. That's everyone who signed up on GM 675. Does anyone else wish to testify in GM 675, either in Zoom or here in person? Seeing none, Representative Maramoto, are you there?
They're not on Zoom, Chair.
Okay. Ms. Maramoto, as you're all aware, was a former Republican representative from here on Oahu. I think she'll be great for this job, so I'm going to advise and consent to the nomination. I'm going to recommend we advise and consent to the nomination on GM 675. Questions or concerns? Senator Elefante.
Thank you, Chair. In support of your recommendation for advice and consent, I'll just note for the record that our office did reach out to Rep. Marimoto, and I know she comes with well-experienced background, but I would hope that we'll have an opportunity to meet before the Senate floor vote. Thank you.
Understood. Thank you. Other concerns?
Same question. She filled out the resume and
Oh, yeah.
the questionnaire.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, and she wants to do it.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm good with that.
Okay. So the recommendation is to advise and consent, and Vice Chair Gabbard for the vote.
With all members present, are there any no votes or reservations? Hearing none, the measure passes.
All right, that concludes our business. So members, thank you so much for all your help and cooperation during this session. I believe this will be our last hearing for the year. And yeah, so thanks for being here, and that concludes our business. We're adjourned.